how to save refunds and cancellation requests. This is a topic I wanted to cover because it's one of those things that I have found that a lot of people get thrown for a loop on. What you need to understand is that when somebody asks for a refund, it's actually rare that they necessarily want a refund. What most often happens is there was some expectation that's gone unmet, and it's become awkward for the person to speak about it. And so the knee-jerk reaction is to say, let me get out, right? Let me get out of this situation. And so in this episode, I wanted to bring it back. This episode was actually originally produced and published on October 2021. I'm on vacation right now, and so we'll bring you back some of the greatest hits while I'm gone so that I can be with my family. So this episode, people found really helpful when we put out. It's one of those things where, when it comes time when you get a refund request, it's almost too late. You want to arm yourself with the knowledge of how to respond now. So hope that this helps. This is one of those absurdly useful ones. And I'll be back at the end to recommend another episode for you to listen to. Enjoy.
Refunds. Let's do it.
They happen.
They happen. But refunds usually mean that there's an unmet expectation. It's very rare that somebody is like really upset with everything. Often a refund request is a knee-jerk reaction to them not feeling like they're being looked after the way that they expected to. Now, that might not have been discussed either which way. And that's the first thing that I want to talk about a little bit today is how to set the scene to better open communication, better customer service, to make the clients feel like they're looked after so that you never get to the point where somebody has like a knee-jerk, like, oh my God, I just need a refund. Like when that happens, and most refund requests is basically somebody just saying, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what I'm feeling, but I just need it to stop. Right? There's a lack of control. And that's often unmet expectation. So I will talk about, and I'll give you a very specific response to meet somebody where they're at once that message comes in. But what I think is most important to talk about, Amber, here, and you can tell me whether I'm wrong or off base or not, is let's do everything that we can to stop this request in the first place. Like what needs to be done there? Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, definitely being proactive here is a game changer.
Mm-hmm. And so there's been some really interesting studies done with malpractice lawsuits amongst doctors and physicians. And what's particularly telling is that people don't sue doctors that they like. People sue doctors they don't like. It's not a measure of how good a doctor is. It's not a measure of how well somebody did as a result of that treatment. Instead, it's a measure of how much they liked or didn't like the doctor. So the first step that you really have to do as a trainer is be likable. Like honestly, training is a customer service profession. While it's nice to say we're in the results industry and everything that matters is results, the reality of it is you're in a service-based industry. Your job is to give a client the service that they signed up for. And oftentimes, the service that they signed up for is actually not results. They might say that, right? That might be what hooked them in. But there are lots of examples, very interesting examples of people that have gotten phenomenal results that talk very negatively about the program that they were a part of because they didn't feel like they were looked after. John Berardi gives an example like that in Changemaker, in his book Changemaker, where there was a client of I guess it was the Precision Nutrition Program, who they, was going around different forums, basically like making bad reviews of the coaching program. Anytime anybody would ask about it, she'd basically say, I did it for the full year, and I really would not recommend it. And so they looked up who this client was. Right? The top brass looked up who this client was. They're like, this is weird. This person lost 80 pounds with us. They should be ecstatic. Like, holy crap, we changed this person's life. So they reached out to them. And they said, hey, we're just curious, like, what's going on here? You know, everything, you know, our measurements say that you got great physical results in the program, but you clearly weren't happy with something that went on. So, like, what happened? She felt like she wasn't looked after. She didn't know how she was supposed to be coached. She didn't feel like the coach was there for her. She felt like she was on her own. Even though she got incredible results. So, customer service is number one. By the time a request comes in for a refund, it's often too late. And your clients need to know, well, I mean, first of all, there needs to be rapport from day one. Like, this is why sales is rapport building, right? Sales is the beginning of coaching. Your customer needs to know that you're there for them, right? You need to provide remarkable customer service as a trainer. You need to be there for these people. You need to surprise and delight them, right? You need to show up in times that are perhaps unexpected in order to look after these people. That's honestly the best way. Like figure out what their expectations are before they start the program. And also be very curious when they're starting the program in maybe some stuff that might have happened that they were dissatisfied with previous programs, and be damn well sure you get in front of that kind of stuff. Anything else you want to add to that before we get into like the actual response to the request, Amber?
Yeah. So something that I like to do is set the expectation that they can always communicate with me. And so I'll always do it kind of like in a joking way. Like, even if you call me an evil witch and every name under the book, like, I don't care. It's fine. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. And so setting the expectation that they have full, ability to reach out at any time for anything that could possibly upset them. If you are ever less than 100% ecstatic about our working relationship together, then I need to know that. I need you to tell me that so that way we can address it. So giving them permission to complain, I think, helps.
And I think I want to add to that before you go on, because I think a few different ways that they can reach out to you, not just call me, but hey, look, this is my number on WhatsApp. Like, we have our scheduled calls, like we have our, we have a support, but like, if ever you are feeling anything other than 100%, I want you to message me on WhatsApp. That's my red light. Like I will come running, right? If you message me on WhatsApp. And so don't use it for any other thing. And I like that, because the reality of it is, I mean, people won't abuse it as long as you set it up the right way, but you have it there if they need it. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, there is an easy way that even if you're embarrassed, I mean, oftentimes I don't like to be controversial, or not controversial. What is it? Combative?
Confrontational.
Like, I don't like to be confrontational. That's actually a problem of mine. It's something that I really want to work on. But a lot of people have a lot of issues being confrontational. And it's a lot easier to send a quick message on WhatsApp or text message or whatever that is not even confrontational, but just talking about how you're feeling, as opposed to being scared that if you were to call somebody, that they will be confrontational. Even though you as a great coach wouldn't, because you would go, you would approach it with curiosity, because that's what great coaches do. They don't know that. And they often will probably have had experiences with coaches who are not great, who approached it with confrontation. So it's scary.
Yeah. And then what you said there is good. Setting, like, telling them exactly what to do makes a big difference, and make it as easy on them as possible. Yeah. And so, like, I know from my demographic who's very anti-confrontational, like, drop me like a particular GIF or like red light or whatever, right? Like, just if it freaks you out to start the conversation, drop me a angry emoji. I don't care. Like, that way I know to start the conversation, because then it may be less scary if I start it. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up too is I think it kind of ties into what you were saying earlier about setting expectations. And so that's why things like the welcome packet are so important, because it helps reinforce expectations. They have a resource to go to if they ever do get confused, that they feel weird about reaching out to you for.
Yep.
So it's another place for them to understand what's going on, and it's a place that they have control over, versus feeling the need to reach out where they feel like I don't want to bother them for this question. It feels silly. They have something they can proactively do on their own. And that's all I had.
Perfect. So when you get that message, it's usually sent from a client in a very emotional state at the heat of the moment. There's usually a trigger for that message as well. Something happened, right, that triggered it where they said, screw it. But like, it has been going on for a while. They've been having these feelings, but there's some trigger, and they responded and they sent you this message very emotionally in the moment. So there's a few things you want to do. The first is, you don't want to have a conversation with them in that heated moment. And so here's what I recommend. It's actually a 2-step process. The first message that you want to send is, hey, like respond to them right away. Right, the second you get it, because especially if you're on something where they can see that you got the message, you definitely don't want to see the message and then not respond, right? Because then they're just bored. So respond to them right away and just say, hey, I'm actually just about to jump on calls for the afternoon or whatever it is, and I want to make sure I fully understand what's going on before I respond. Is it okay if I get back to you, by the end of the day, tomorrow at the absolute latest? I'm so sorry. I just have a really busy afternoon. In the meantime, I'm curious, what is it that you felt was missing from the program? So what you're doing there, one, is you're gathering a little bit more information for them, which they might not answer, right? They'll probably answer and say, yeah, that's fine. They might not answer at all. Or they might actually tell you something that was missing, because often a refund request is them saying that they, something's really missing. But also, you're just delaying the conversation a little bit. It's the old count to 10 if you're angry. And all of a sudden now you can have a more rational conversation once you count to 10. And so then you want to respond. Ideally, you will tell them that you respond in like a longer period of time, and then respond earlier than you told them. So, say, I'll get back to you tomorrow, like the absolute latest, but like respond within a few hours. Right? And then you want to respond here, you want to meet them where they're at. Like, you feel bad. Like, this sucks. Right? So, first is appreciate them for waiting, right? For delaying. So, hey, thank you so much for your patience. I failed you here. And I feel awful about that. From what you've said, and I believe you, you weren't being heard and supported in the way that you needed. I really wish that I was there for you more at the beginning, particularly in helping you navigate the always messy beginning. Change like this is hard, and sometimes it sucks. At the beginning, it should be really clear that this is a trying out process, as the process begins to form into something you're both comfortable with and proud of. This, of course, takes more than whatever period of time, takes more than a month to make happen. And there can be some really sucky points along the way. I know that this system works, and I also know that it has to be adapted differently to everybody. And while I would have absolutely loved the chance to work with you to make that happen, I did not do a good enough job at the start, and that's my bad, and I just know that I'm going to do a better job next time. So I'm really sorry. And of course, if you want to exit the program, that's okay with me. Please, I want you to tell me what you think is fair in terms of a refund. That response, you will often save a refund there. Oftentimes, I mean, you will almost always, if not always, get a refund request within the beginning few weeks or month of a program. You're almost never going to get it from somebody who's been in your program for a few months. And the reality of it is, change sucks. Change is hard. Change takes time. And if you do a very good job at the beginning, you communicate that effectively enough to people that they understand it. Even then, it's still hard. Even then, it still sucks. Oftentimes, we don't do a good enough job communicating that to a client at the beginning. And so when they're feeling these things, it's important to say to them, like, look, I'm sorry. Like, I messed up here. Take accountability. Like feel bad. I mean, it sucks. You did not do your job, right? And let them know that. Let them know that you take this to heart. Let them know that you're going to do better next time. Let them know that the beginning is always hard when you start this. Because what that's saying to them is, it will get better. If you work with me, if you work through this, we can make it better together. But you're not saying that. Because you can't say that. Because at this point, when they ask for a refund, they need to have the decision. They can't think that you're pushing anything on them in any way, shape, form. So they need to have the decision, but you need to give them the information that they need to be able to make the decision. And then at the end of it all, you ask them what you think is fair. Because they've used some of your service. They've used some of your time. And they might come back and say, I need 100%. Your program sucked. You should probably give them 100%. Most of the time, most humans are pretty rational, are pretty fair, if you give them a chance to show up that way. And so in doing that, they're going to say to you, right, oh, well, I worked with you for a month and I had 2 months left, so can I have, a refund on my unused 2 months? Still not a great outcome, but of course better if you don't have to give away all the money. So that response does a lot of things, right? But you get the process. You first have to give a bit of a cooling off period, figure out a way to give a cooling off period. And then you've got to, be real. You're not pushing anything on them. You've got to show them that you feel bad. And you've got to give them the information that they need to hopefully continue with you along this process that sucks. Because changing sucks. Especially the beginning parts of it.
Absolutely. And then there's another really big benefit to handling it this way. Even if they still ask for a refund, how we handle ourselves in that moment can dictate how they talk about us outside of, that conversation. Mm-hmm. So even if we were not the right fit for them, they still may leave with a positive experience because of how we handle that to other people. So, try not to get into your feelings about, feeling like they're attacking you, take ownership, like John said, and use that conversation to promote goodwill with that person, even if it doesn't have the outcome that you're looking for, because that can certainly have ripple effects. So you don't want to tell them don't leave it kind of harsh, because that will cause the ripple effect even further, but in a negative way. So even if you don't think anyone is watching, still always put your best coaching foot forward.
Yep. And that's all we have today for you folks on the Online Trainer Show. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. I loved spending this time with you and you and you and all you beautiful people. And we can't wait to talk to you in 2 more days or next week, whichever comes first. See you then.
John, again, thank you so much for listening. If you're looking for another episode to listen to, I'm going to recommend you check out episode 82. It's called 4 Ways to Succeed When You're On Your Own. I used to want to rely on family members, on friends, on colleagues to support the work that I was doing. And over again, I'd release something or I'd announce something, and then there would just be crickets. There would be no support. And the first time it happened, I got upset. The second time it happened, I thought it had something to do with me. The third time that it happened, I became to appreciate that was just how it is, that I'm on my own. And so I started to build the business around it. I started to design products around it and marketing around this idea that, hey, if anything's going to happen, it's going to be up to me. And so I'm sharing some of my best strategies and techniques and stuff like that in that episode. So if you're looking for something else to listen to, episode 82, 4 Ways to Succeed When You're On Your Own, just scroll back wherever you listen to this and check it out. I hope that you like it.